Singer and songwriter R. Kelly is being sued for sexual battery and allegedly failing to disclose a sexually transmitted disease. Kelly is one of the most successful R&B singers of all time, but he is no stranger to controversy.
A series of sexual misconduct allegations by former girlfriends led several music streaming services like Spotify and Apple to remove Kelly's songs from featured playlists. There's also a movement online called Mute R. Kelly. Jericka Duncan spoke to the 20-year-old woman who is suing him.
He was like, here's my number, take it, text me a picture of you so I know it's you with your name.
20-year-old Faith Rogers says in March of last year, she met R. Kelly in San Antonio at a party after his concert.
He was older than me, and that was a red flag, you know.
Did you look at him as a 50-year-old man at the time?
Not at all. Even being around him, he doesn't act his age. And you feel like I'm chilling with somebody I went to high school with.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky.
After 2 months of phone calls, texting, and FaceTiming, she says R. Kelly flew her to New York to attend one of his shows and even paid for her hotel. The morning after the performance, she says Kelly visited her room.
He turns on all the lights and he's like, take off your clothes. And he says it, you know, with authority in his voice, not just, you know, he's demanding me to do this. And I didn't take off my clothes because why would I? Just wasn't ready. Sex isn't something, you know, I'm ready for it.
According to Rogers, she ultimately submitted to having sex and alleges Kelly recorded it on his iPad without her consent.
Did you want to have sex with him?
No. He has this type of like intimidation right off the bat, you know, so I was just waiting for it to be over.
What happens after that? What sort of conversation did you guys have?
He comes over and he starts like rubbing the side of my face. And he asked me how old I was. And I told him. And he's like, you know, if you're really, you know, 16, that you can tell daddy, right? And he was like, you know, you just look about 14, 15, or 16.
Rogers, who was 19 at the time, is suing R. Kelly for sexual battery and willfully, deliberately, and maliciously infecting her with herpes. And she claims Kelly mentally, sexually, and verbally abused her. She believes the now 51-year-old Kelly pursues teenage or underage girls and lures them into engaging in sex acts. In April, she filed a criminal complaint with the Dallas Police Department and says under their advisement, she recorded a phone call with Kelly, hoping he would admit to knowingly giving her an STD.
But what about my situation?
I don't know about no situation. I don't never talk about nothing to nobody on phone. I don't do that. I don't care what the situation is.
Rogers claims Kelly also routinely locked her in a van.
The first time I was left in the car for a total of 8 hours that night, and the child lock was on the car.
I'm that star up in the sky.
Rogers believes Kelly was priming her to join a group of women she says he lives and travels with.
He goes on to tell me that he raises 5 women. Some of them have been with him for 15 years, and he basically was trying to make it seem like it was a family thing. He described these women as being his family. Then he goes on to tell me, you know what, I love you because you remind me of them.
She claims she had a brief conversation with at least one of those women, Joycelyn Savage.
My daughter's severely brainwashed.
In July of 2017, Savage's parents held a news conference asking authorities to remove their daughter from Kelly's home.
So we just want him to release her and let her go on with her life.
They believe Savage and several other girls were being controlled by Kelly and forced to perform sex acts as part of a cult. But Savage denied those claims to TMZ.
I'm in a happy place with my life, and I'm not being brainwashed.
For decades, there have been questions concerning R. Kelly and his relationship with underage girls. In 2008, he was acquitted on child pornography charges. Prosecutors alleged he made a sex tape with a girl around 14 years old. A 2017 BuzzFeed investigation describes 3 women who say they were sexually abused by Kelly and were part of a sex cult. Kelly has long denied these allegations. A social media campaign to mute R. Kelly led to promoters canceling a concert in Kelly's hometown of Chicago last month. He reacted on Twitter.
I've never heard of a show being canceled because of homeless. I hope you guys, don't put that on me.
Despite nationwide protests at shows, the 3-time Grammy winner is still performing. As for Rogers, she hopes by coming forward, she can help put an end to Kelly's long history of alleged abuse.
What was it about him that kept you going back?
It's not like all the time he was just, this devious person. There's been times where he's, crying and he's telling me, about his children, about his ex-wife, comparing himself to Michael Jackson and how, how the media destroyed him, and he felt like that's what was going on in his life.
Why file the lawsuit?
I want it for girls like me who are gonna run into him in the future, and he's gonna do the exact same thing, but it could get worse, I chose to walk away. What about the ones who don't walk away?
We reached out to R. Kelly's representative, and they told us they have no comment on Rogers' allegations or this new lawsuit. In a Washington Post article in April, a representative for Kelly said the singer categorically denies all claims and allegations. Rogers says she is not looking for a settlement, and her lawyers say they will be seeking a jury trial.
So, Jericka, you heard a bit, you played a bit of that 25-minute phone call there where she's talking about her situation. Did you hear any more of that phone call? Did she talk about, beyond the immediate situation, the whole experience on the phone with him?
Right. So this was at the advice of the police after she filed the police report. She's trying to get him to admit in this phone call, which she recorded, that he did give her a sexually transmitted disease. Throughout the phone call, he is very, very strategic about saying, I know you're a good girl, I'm a good guy, and I'm just looking out for you. You've been acting strange. If you want to come, to Chicago, or, I'll fly you so we can talk in person. But you notice she said the situation.
Yeah.
She never says herpes. She never says an STD. But I think this speaks to him knowing, based on what he's already been involved in legally, that he's not going to mention anything on the phone. So as you heard him say, I don't know even what you're talking about, what the situation is. And even if there was a situation, I don't talk about anything over the phone. He repeats that several times throughout that 25-minute conversation.
It's such an unbelievable story, and I'm so glad that you're reporting on this, and I'm so glad that she's chosen to speak out. What did you, as reporters, when we meet people like this, there's always a bit of suspicion, a bit of cynicism as to why they're doing this. And you asked her point blank, and I thought her answer was a really good one, that she doesn't want other young women to fall into his trap, essentially.
Yeah, she's 20 years old now, but at the time she's 19, and she, Vlad and Anne-Marie, she admits, I didn't make the best decisions, but she got into what she thought was kind of a cool relationship, to have the number of somebody like R. Kelly and to be able to text him and FaceTime him. She said, I took it for what it was when I asked her, well, what did you think was going to happen, or what did you want to happen in this relationship? But she does make it clear that that first night, first trip to New York City, by the way, that she's ever been here. So she's excited about coming to the Big Apple, seeing R. Kelly perform. But she said that particular night, the first time that they had sex, she says, I made it clear I was not ready. It started off, she said, actually with a massage. And he says, no, I want you to massage me here. And then it led to some other things, which led to some other things, which then she says led to them actually having sex.
So here's the thing about R. Kelly is he's had this cloud over him for
a long
years
time
now, right? In 2008, there was a child pornography case. He was acquitted. But even just, a couple years ago, we saw the parents of one woman basically alleging that he's holding women hostage, that he has some sort of like a harem of women who live with him. I wonder how frustrated if she expressed any frustration that these allegations have been floating around for a while. Nothing is really stuck. They're allegations.
Right. And so at 19 and now 20, I asked her, did you understand that there was a history? And she said, honestly, not really. When I was in 3rd or 4th grade, I remember having to sing I Believe I Can Fly as part of our graduation ceremony. So this just goes to show you, in terms of even the disconnect with where she is and knowing the ins and outs of what he was accused of. Now, she had heard about it, but she didn't, live through it, know about it in the ways that, you and I know about what was going on at that time in 2008. And the fact that it took 6 years, if you recall, for that to even go to trial. That tape was released in 2002, this alleged tape of him having sex with someone around 14 years old. So she didn't really know. But then I said, but what about in 2017 when the BuzzFeed investigation breaks and the parents are out publicly asking for help from authorities to get their daughter back? And she said, well, I asked him about that, but he said, oh, those are rumors and people are trying to bring me down. So she's listening to this and thinking, well, he hasn't really tried to keep me in a position like that so much, although there were signs before that from the van incident, she said, when she locked him or her away in the van. And, you know, there was enough there that she starts to make sense of it all. But sadly, in this case, it took almost a year. And then she now has a disease which she says she believes she contracted from R. Kelly that she'll be living with for the rest of her life. I mean, I thought another interesting thing that she said is he knows how to leave his mark, and he's leaving his mark on people like me. And I mean, we're talking literally and figuratively. So she's trying to move past it. She obviously, again, says she's speaking out and hopes that maybe it will educate and enlighten some other young women that may have similar interaction with him. But now admits, you know, it was a big mistake to even let it get to that point.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Great reporting, Jericka.
Thanks a lot, Jericka.
Thank you.